I'll leave it for like another minute.
You're going to leave the wrap for another minute?
Yeah.
And then you're going to take it off and then re-wrap it again like halfway through our conversation?
Pretty much.
Okay.
That's how this is going to go. The hope is that when I stand up from sitting down for an hour, that I don't get like a pinch right away.
Gotcha.
That is the only symptom I really have anymore with it.
Just a little pinchy.
Just a little pinchy. Yep. It's not pleasant though.
Welcome back to STS. And wow, it's been a while since we've done.
You did the hand clap.
I did the clap. I know. As soon as I did it, I regretted it. I could say it. I could do it again. We could run it back.
Yeah.
But I already did it, so we can just kind of roll forward with this. It has been a while since we've talked on camera.
A while.
Yeah, I can't actually even remember our last episode. Was it Kings of the Concrete or some kind of wrap up? No, it must have been something after that.
I think it was Art of Motion.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a lot has happened since we have spoken on camera and on microphone. And actually, one thing I wanted to talk about was that it's actually Origin's 10 years anniversary. We just had, that was technically September.
Yeah, it was
the first week of September.
I don't remember the exact date. Alyssa Serpa tells me it is September 10th.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Does it? Or you just
No, it sounds very right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was like the official opening day of the gym. We actually got in, so like the signing for the lease of Origin happened at the end of 2011.
Yeah. It was like October, November or something like that.
Yeah, November. And then the official open the doors to the public day was September 2012. So here we are at 10 years, and we almost didn't do anything. Like I almost, you see, like I'm so enthused about it right now. It's like, I don't know. I'm not really much of an anniversary guy.
Yeah.
For things.
Well, I mean, 10 years is kind of a big deal. There's like, it's actually in the context of the world that we're living in, it's even more impressive than just a business lasting for 10 years. It's more impressive because we survived the pandemic.
Yeah.
And, seemingly coming back out of the pandemic stronger than ever. So 10 years is a long time for any business to survive, but also like given the circumstances, like a business like a parkour gym that relies heavily on people coming in and being present in the space.
It makes me think like if it weren't for all the crap that happened in the last couple of years, if like I would have been more ready for it and more like making more of a big deal out of it, but now it's just kind of like a reminder, like, oh, by the way, 10 years. It's like, oh, we should probably do something. And then of course we had SPL 1, which was a huge deal and a lot of moving parts and a lot around happening at the gym, and that's at the end of August, and so it just didn't line up. And I was thinking of doing something at SPL 1 that would be like, maybe doing like a video that would have played on the pay-per-view that would have been like Origin's 10 years.
Yeah.
Like I had that thought, but we just didn't.
That would have been really cool, actually. We just didn't have time.
Well, crap. Didn't have time for a lot of things.
Well, I mean, SPL 1 is, SPL in general is back. That's another kind of interesting milestone, right? Like coming out of the pandemic, we were able to have a competition again. And that was, the last one before that was 3 years ago. So it's literally been 3 years since the previous like major parkour competition that we hosted. So, that was, it didn't go as smoothly as like I think we would have liked, but we always, perfection is always a moving target. We can reflect on that. Do you want to reflect on that now?
That's like a whole
That's a whole episode.
That's a whole podcast, and maybe maybe it belongs on another channel too.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We talk about other events as well.
Yeah, it's true.
So, well, I was very, very pleased with it. It was like really exciting event from the perspective of, being involved in organizing and then kind of seeing it through and just like being able to watch it. Very exciting. We did a pay-per-view, which was mostly received well. And it's really the first of its kind in terms of what we chose to do with it.
Yeah, in parkour. Yeah.
But there's a lot to talk about there. So we don't have to talk about it. This weekend was PKBC 16.
Yeah.
Celebrating the 10-year anniversary.
That got confusing.
Of Origins.
I just didn't even know how to title it. It was like PKBC 16 times Origins 10 years. I know this sounds weird, but because that's the other like the summer is not long enough. We're just running out of time. Like even going into this year too, I was thinking of that was the theme this year, was just like having all these sort of like plans and goals at the start of the year, and then like mostly executing them, but just not really during the times that would have made more sense. Like it would have made more sense to do PKBC in like early July, which I was like targeting in my head, but then we ended up going to Colorado for the Outrun comp, and then that's also right around to the end of July is we shut down the gym for a week. And then beginning of July was like start like hustling into camps, and our camps sold out this year, which is great. But yeah, there was just a lot going on, and I just didn't get like ahead of it enough to kind of get everyone together and be like, hey, like we're going to do PKBC. It's going to happen at this time. But yeah, PKBC has traditionally been just a jam. Yeah. And then after opening the gym, it sort of became more than a jam because we have the ability to do more things, right? And so I think that was kind of like one of the vibes too this weekend too, was like I wanted to do something at Cottonwood Park, which is the new Parkour Park, really close to Vancouver, and it was like, oh, it would be cool for like it looks like set up for a speed course. Like there's quite a bit of like linear things that can happen.
There's lines,
like, yeah. So that's what we did. And then like we always do, not always, but in the most recent years, we've done like a challenge night at the gym, which is, in my opinion, like better than just doing like open gym. It's like open gym, but there's going to be some challenges, and people can come in and try to complete them. And so then I was just like, oh, we should do a style comp as well. So we did a style thing too. But it's like the first time we've done a jam where like it's been 3 sort of mini competitions, and they're very light-hearted competitions too. Yeah. They're not there's not a lot of setup or rules or anything like that. But it is different than your traditional jam, which used to be just like the early PKBC was just like, okay, people from all over should come. We should try to get as many people as we can here, and then just have a jam, just have like a session of spots. And I think some people like miss that, but at the same time, it just doesn't seem like it's as easy to get people to come out when it's just another jam.
That's potentially true. I think also earlier in the summers, and more advertising maybe would have gotten more people out, but that wasn't even necessarily. It was I don't know. As a participant in some of the competitions, that was very fun. I also think there could have been more just jamming, like thinking about like SFU. We were at SFU for a little while.
It was too quick. Yeah,
I looked at one spot and then kind of dipped. Yeah, but I mean, it was still very fun. I didn't really do much, but it was a good time. It was like it felt like there was a lot being crammed into the weekend, but as somebody who participated in some of the competitions, I felt like I got exactly the amount of parkour I wanted out of it. But I could imagine that there's also other people who are like just kind of like ended up being a spectator for most of the weekend.
Yeah.
Because maybe they're just not feeling comfortable with competing or just not into competing but also, I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't know what direction, I guess, the people of parkour want to go in. If they prefer events where it's like there's direction, like during the event, like there's, because it doesn't, it could be like we didn't do workshops and we've done those in the past. We didn't do, those sort of things. But those are all things where like a workshop kind of guarantees you're going to train because you can go participate in the workshop. So you're going to get some training in. Competition, if you don't want to do the competition, you're spectating and then you're not training. And I think some people, when there's like a competition happening at a jam, they're like, oh, I don't want to go because I don't want to spectate and I don't want to do the comp. And so you kind of need like another thing to happen. And I think it's probably what I'll try to plan for, I guess, next year. Because I do want to just keep it as like one big jam every year. Hopefully earlier in the summer next year.
Yeah.
I think it would make sense for PKBC's 17 to be in the beginning of July. And I also got to get, like, I was going to get a speaker this year to be able to play music and like perhaps a megaphone or something. There's just so much we can. I like the idea of doing more with jams because I don't want it to be just like, again, here's some spots for you to show up at. And we've tried a bunch of different things, so I don't know. Maybe I'll have to put out like a poll and see like what events do people want, because ultimately I'm doing it for everybody, not for me.
No, and it's tricky because there's so many things that could happen during an event. But like if you put enough parkour people in an area, they're gonna start doing parkour. So it's it's like the balance between how much organized event activities do you need versus unstructured play. But one of the cool things actually about this year was we had the most kids turnout. And they're not just like any kids, right? Like they're youth who are into parkour.
I think that was because of the competitions.
I agree. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. But the previous year there was a lot of kids too, not quite as many, but and that was like the bike tour. And that was another thing, right? It's another activity, but it was also loose activity, right? Because it was, you just go around the different spots and you train at them for a period of time.
Yeah, I think the reason, like, I didn't want to do a bike tour this year because we had that new park. So I'm like, we got to do something like to basically activate the park. And then I also, just like traditionally, we always did like day 2 of the jam was always like a nature day. So I was like, we were talking about this like leading up to it, where it's like, okay, maybe we'll go to the beach and do like a buoy sesh. And so like Jackson brought out buoy, bury it in the sand. You can do tricks off of it into the sand. That's cool. Tried to pick an area where there was like, because it wasn't really like a parkour spot nearby, but there's some trees and stuff you can climb on. And then it was in close proximity to the tree that we did the style jam on. So that was the whole reasoning behind like that location. Was to keep it kind of like themed as a nature sort of day, because it's always been like people go hard on day 1 and then it's like they probably could use a
more chill day,
a break. And so typically parkour in nature ends up being a little bit less impact. Not always, but
yeah, that's true. One thing that I find that's interesting, this is not really relevant, but Cottonwood Park, it's a new parkour park. And then we have 3 other parkour parks in Metro Vancouver. I feel like this is maybe the most parkour parks in any like region in North America, like in one area.
Oh yeah, North America for sure.
Definitely North America.
We're also about to have like a mini one at Oak Ridge, which is even closer to here. Actually, Colin McDonald is on the design for that. And then if the Cooper's Park one that I've been on the project for
that's gonna
like
be the best one.
Over 3 or 4. Well,
no. Okay.
In terms of proximity, but like hopefully I can. I have a good position in that one where they're actually letting me be involved not only in the design process, but on paper I'm supposed to be involved also in the like when they're building to like look at materials and stuff. So it has the potential to be the best one.
Yeah. So when I say best one, I don't necessarily mean best one like for parkour, but what I do think. So personally, I'm not into training at Parkour Parks. Like actually, the most enjoyable experience at a parkour park was this weekend doing the speed course. It was like, okay, this is what I have to do now, and like this is like how I'm gonna kind of frame my training. I'm trying to navigate it.
Do you think this is kind of a tangent, but we'll go back to Cooper's Park, but so we're talking about Cottonwood Park. It's a concrete park. It's built for parkour. Do you feel like the speed course is more enjoyable because like you're not looking for challenges?
Yeah.
It's just So because I'm kind of the same way where it's like I don't enjoy parks. I sometimes don't even enjoy gym. I enjoy gym for like, okay, I need to work on something. I need to work on my laches. I need to work on my kongs or something, and I go to the gym. Because I'm going to have a bunch of different challenges that I can throw out and work on my technique. But if I'm trying to sesh and like create something, I hate gym. I hate park because it's like the creation part is already in a lot of ways done for you. Yep. So you can't find. I think you're kind of the same way.
That's my experience. Well, I also like. I mean, we kind of talked about this a little bit this weekend, but I don't even like parkour spots. I do. Okay, it's weird, but. I like it's actually funny to me that and I love this part of parkour that IMAX has become such a like staple spot in the sport, and it's been like a proving ground where things are, you know, this has never been done, this has never been done, and people are doing it, but it's like I would, if I lived in London, I wouldn't want to always train at IMAX. And the same thing is true here. Like a lot of our standard spots, like Cole Harbor, a traditional parkour spot, really like good for parkour. But it's like one of my least favorite places to go train at, and because my love for training is more around like exploration, and I love finding the back alley spot that you're like not gonna have like a million things to do at. You've got one or two
or
things.
Or a million people.
And you've got one or two things that are there that you're gonna sesh and you're gonna try to get down, and then okay, you milked that non-spot for what it's worth. Let's move to the next one. And that's a big part of what's fun about parkour to me is the exploration that happens. Even if you don't do that much parkour on a day, like where you're just like looking around, you're just like kind of using your imagination to see what is possible in areas. But I mean, so I did say I don't like spots. I do like spots. I like training parkour at spots, especially if like if I'm inspired by something or seeing somebody else do something that maybe I can play around with. But that's also not. But that kind of plays into the whole parkour park thing, is like parkour parks are spots.
Yeah.
They are spots. And the reason why I said the Cooper's Park one is going to be the best one is because of proximity. It's like a good meeting point. It's like right in the middle of downtown. It's like, oh, let's meet at the parkour park. We'll warm up, kind of sesh a couple of challenges, and then like move out from there. And that's the kind of training that I'll probably be really into around a parkour park.
Yeah.
Also, like, okay, I got some stuff. I got moving. I got I got what I needed to do to get warmed up, and now let's hit the street spots.
Yeah, I think there's one more element to it that it's going to be hit or miss because it's the first parkour park, in my knowledge, to be like that, where the city wants there to be a theme.
Right, yeah.
And so I'm not supposed to talk about what the theme is, so I'm not going to say, because also it might not happen, and I don't want people to be disappointed. But a theme as in, like, it can't just be, here's a concrete wall, here's a rail, like, they're going to be, the structures are going to be rendered a certain way to follow a theme. Like, trying to think of something that's not the theme that I could talk about to kind of paint a picture for people.
So here's an example. So like the splash park in Stanley Park.
Oh yeah, like the boat. Yeah,
it's shaped like a boat, and it's a splash park. And we've trained on it. There's actually a video. You could check out the video. Link
somewhere.
So I don't know. We're probably not gonna do that. But we trained on it.
It also looks like a parkour park.
Yeah, it looks like a parkour park, but it is shaped like a boat. But it's a theme. It's not just like a random splash park with like things that shoot water around, but it's like it has a theme to it. So.
Yeah, the theme is there's a boat. Boat theme. Or like another thing I could think about is like instead of having a concrete block, say you have like something that looks like a big like Super Mario mushroom. This is not the theme of the park, but like if you can imagine like a parkour park that's like that instead of hard edges and things that look like they're supposed to be for parkour. Yeah, so Tempest does a lot of that stuff in their gyms. But yeah, to my knowledge, this is going to be the first park where the whole thing is going to be themed in a way that doesn't necessarily look like it's a parkour park, but that is going to have like challenges and things like in mind with that you could do with it. So it might be more enjoyable by the aspect of like, because there could be some like features that come out of it that aren't intended for parkour. It kind of reminds me of like one time we had, I think it was like probably like NAPC 2018 or something. And we had like this structure in the gym that we call the sandwich. And it's basically just like 2 sheets of plywood that sandwich a frame. And so there's like a little space between the frame, and we just had it as a platform somewhere. And a bunch of guys that came in from out of town, they were trying to like wedge their foot for like a tic tac, like in between the sheets of plywood, because there's like maybe like 4 inches of space or something. And it's just like that kind of thing where it's like, oh, that's not what, there was no challenge set up for that. There was no, but this is like parkour brain is like not doing what the structure is made for or intended for. We're going to do something different.
It's one of my favorite things to do in here is like, if I'm training in the gym, it's usually like, all right, how can I use the space the way it's like definitely not supposed to, like intended
it's
for.
Like what were we not thinking of doing when we built this? Yeah. Let's do whatever that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is more parkour. It's more in terms of like what I think we talk about like definitions of parkour all the time, but like I think one thing that can be agreed upon, and I think I don't know if I'm about to go. Well, not agreed upon, because like I think some of the newer generation that grows up in gyms, they don't really get this, but it's like something that should be happening when you're doing parkour is misinterpreting architecture. Like this was designed for this, but I'm going to do this other thing with my body on it. Like it was an access ramp, which is the quintessential parkour spot I was going to mention earlier. Yeah. Like IMAX is an access ramp. Cole Harbor that you mentioned was an access ramp. SFU, the spot that we went to, remember their access ramp. The best parkour spots are usually
both spots we went to SFU.
Yeah, they're usually designed to like funnel either vehicle traffic or people traffic to like you walk in between these walls, please, to get down to this other level, and then walk up between these walls to get up to this level. And we're always crossing them in different ways because that's parkour.
It's the rebellion act of parkour.
Yeah.
We're gonna use this handrail that you're supposed to like not jump on. We're gonna jump on it.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny because like we talk about. I remember whenever people tried to have like parkour debates back in the day, like about free running parkour, they would always. It's about the mindset. It's about the mindset. It's like, well, whichever one. I mean, we call it all parkour, but like whatever it is, like I feel like if you're not doing that, if your mindset is not like use this structure in a way that it's not intended for, then you're not doing parkour.
So you mean to say that if I go out into the gym and I swing on a bar I land on a wall, that's not parkour.
And that's where gyms and parkour parks are different.
If it's in the gym, it's in the bin.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's why, and I think that's why there's maybe a bit of like pushback against gym in the bin type mentality, or like in a park is not really as enjoyable to train on, because like again it's kind of made for it. You don't get to have your own interpretation as much.
Yeah, well, this is something that I think I've talked to you about at some point, is like teaching parkour classes and, teaching parkour in the gym, it often feels like I'm not teaching parkour. It feels like I'm teaching secular parkour. I'm just teaching movements. It's like, if you were to do parkour, this is the type of thing that you might do.
This is your toolbox.
So I'm like teaching you how to Kong, but you're not really Konging unless you're doing it outside and you're doing it with an understanding of parkour. And I've like wrestled with this so much in, over the last 10 years, with, am I even teaching parkour? Like, people are learning how to move the way parkour people move, but are they parkour people? Am I adding to the culture of parkour, or am I just like giving people the parkour experience of like, oh yeah, you're just doing parkour in this setting that's not necessarily in the same setting that I practice parkour or much of the greater culture of parkour participates in.
Yeah, but when you started parkour, it was probably like mostly like individual moves.
A lot of it was, yeah. But it was also like, can I climb this thing?
Yeah, well, actually, we talked about this. We had one of our youth team kids in the car as we were getting to the jam. And I was talking about like my first pretty much like 3 years of parkour. And I'd say my first 3 years so like sometime in 2003 to 2006, it was just a lot of trespassing. It was a lot of like going on rooftops, just accessing things, like sometimes maybe not technically trespassing or not really trying to, but just accessing things, just exploring different areas. Like this looks cool. There's a bunch of walls over there. Let's go over there, because we didn't know. No one was doing lines. No one was doing courses. No one was doing even really combos. It was like a lot of singular move practice in terms of like the actual parkour. And then it was just a lot of like to the next spot. And it's so different now because we get to a spot and everyone is like willing to stay at the spot, except for maybe kids, are willing to stay at the spot for a long time to like get as much as they can out of the spot, get the perfect line, get the perfect move, the perfect stick, whatever. Whereas back then it was like next spot, okay, we all did like one Kong. Okay, cool, next spot. All right, everybody did the precision here. Okay, next spot. Like it was... Yeah, we rarely stuck to the same spot for a jam. A jam was like we were walking around all over downtown just trying to find things.
Yeah, see, and I might have had a different mentality when I started. I mean, similar in some respects, but I started a little bit later than you. And a lot of my practice was like, I'm training. Like, I know we say training, like, oh, I'm training, but it's like, I was training. So I would drill moves, I would drill individual moves, and I would do like conditioning circuits and things like, and like, trying to get stronger and more capable. And then when I made my first video, my 1 year, like, the progress video, basically, it was all like mostly lines of like me doing parkour, and like a lot of it was just like multiple camera angles of me running through a space doing the different things, and that was like almost like what I was training for. So I was like, I would do a lot of the individual lines or moves, and then when I was like, okay, this is my progress marker. There was a few individual moves in there, but a lot of it was like lines. And it was like, I was training in a way that was like, try to extract what I can from all the individual move practice and getting stronger and more physically capable to then apply it because that's what parkour was, right? And like parkour, when I started, it went from this, this discipline-like thing that was similar to analogous.
That was a fun phase.
Analogous to martial arts.
Yeah.
And now, 15 years later, I practice it more in an extreme sports like fashion, right? Like, hey, let's find the line, let's find the spot, let's do the thing, and like celebrate that element of it. Whereas so much of my practice early on was like, what am I doing to improve my ability to get away if an attacker started chasing me, or or like, can I get out of this burning building? And and even like to this day, I'll kind of like use that as like a mentality of like, okay, like I'm really scared of this thing. And then I'll just like, what if I had to though? Like, what if I really had to do this climb? Like, could I do it? And then it's like, that's the trigger that allows me to like commit to doing it. But I think that's also like an old head mindset that potentially younger generations don't have the same experience of. Even people who are really high level, like, I don't know, I've never met him, but like Seabay or like Verky or like people who are like on the younger side of the sport, but super high level, they don't think of parkour in the same way that I did when I started.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, parkour is weird. It's like it's gone through such a drastic change over the last 15 years since I started that. And it almost without me even noticing. Like I noticed, like one day I like woke up and realized like, whoa, I'm like, I'm doing a different thing now than I was before.
Yeah.
And it just like, I didn't even, it just kind of happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we spend a lot of time on this program sometimes reminiscing of days of old.
Yeah. But I think there's some value to doing that because so many people get into parkour without actually remembering the past. Like we're a culture that forgets. Yeah. It's like how many people, I know this is kind of a silly thing, but how many people even know who David Bell is or know who Daniel Ilabaka was or know who Chase Armitage was? You know what I mean? Like, and even like Chase Armitage is not really like a traditional parkour guy as much as he was like more pushing the freestyle.
Yeah. And just a big name in the early days too. Just contributed a lot to what we do now.
To modern free running.
Yeah. I guess I was trying to say there too is because you were talking about videos, and you have a video coming out.
I do. I was going to bring it up too, but thank you for bringing it up.
Got you. But yeah, we spend a lot of time, I think, on this on STS chatting about days of old because it's like it's easy. Like we've both been doing it for a minute, and you know, it's like if we're gonna talk about things that people don't know about, or if we're gonna share like anything, we're probably gonna start reflecting on what we used to do. But it's like, you know, progression of videos too, because I think some of your early videos when you started doing parkour were like all encompassing. You would put out like, you know, yearly edits, that sort of thing, and then we got into the Ascension. So we had Ascension, and then we had Ascension 2. Yeah. And now we're on to a different theme. We're probably not done with Ascension, but we're on to a different theme. So I don't know if you want to tell everybody about what you're working on.
Yeah, so I'm working on a video. Well, it's over. It's done. I'm done with it.
The work is done.
Hasn't been released, and I want to, you know, promote it some more. But it's a dive holes video. So it's all themed around diving through small spaces or thread rolls and thread kongs and things like that. And it's actually funny because like the term dive holes I did not coin. I don't remember exactly who did. I want to say it was like Tyson.
I was going to say, is that a Tyson Checker or Colin McDonald?
Or Colin, yeah. It's one of the two of them. Mm-hmm. But I actually think I did coin thread roll back in the day. And I don't have any proof around that, but I'm pretty sure that's a term that I said one time, and then it caught on actually. Yeah. And I've like lately, like over the last few years, I haven't been calling it thread rolls. I've just been calling it dive holes because like, I don't know. I just like was more attracted to that term. But either way, it's all the same thing. Going through small spaces, it's a weird niche movement that most people in parkour completely ignore or avoid because it's not, it doesn't seem accessible.
Well, not everybody's built for it.
Okay. I taught Liam Hodge to dive through stuff, and he is a large man.
Yeah, it's true.
So I actually, and this is funny because I was talking to Pablo Wiedemann. I was talking to him about it, and he was like, this stuff is the most impressive stuff. And I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, yeah, because like like these other guys like that are so good, like C-Bay can't do this. He can't do what you're doing. And I was like, but I will never be able to jump as far as C-Bay, but I could probably teach C-Bay how to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and that's...
Well, when I was saying about who's built for it too, I didn't just mean size. I meant like there's other... like I'll see for myself, like if I want to do a thread dive Kong, you know, my tucking ability is terrible.
Yeah.
So like the mobility, or like if you're longer legged, I could see it being harder. Yeah, I think
Hodge has long legs.
Yeah, I know, but he's also not
really
like
wide.
He's also not like the best, but
no,
like but also I'm not saying I don't do, like you know, like I like to go through spaces as well. It's just not my like strongest skill.
Yeah. It's weird though, because it's a skill that I got good at almost like without realizing I was getting good at it. Like, well, that's not exactly true, but like early on in my training, it just felt like it was something that I should be working on.
Is it like Nathan Miller not being sure that he's good at climb ups?
Nathan Muller is the best at climb ups. I'm pretty certain.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm very good though. I still think it could be fast.
Well, it felt like it was so diving through holes felt like it was something that you like. It's a natural progression of like getting better at something, right? Mm-hmm. You start doing dive rolls, and then you start diving through stuff. It's just like, okay, like this is part of parkour and part of the progression. But for some reason, I started continuing going down that route of progression while most other people completely ignore it as a skill. And yeah, here we are 15 years after I started parkour, and I'm putting out a specific edit around it. And it's actually like there's only like 2 or 3 clips in it that are just one skill. Like only one like dive hole. All the other ones are like lines that I built around doing more than one. So that's kind of a big part of the theme of it is I wanted to like create a scenario. I wanted to create a video like my like where I actually used it in lines, because a lot of the stuff that I put on Instagram, it's just like kind of one bang like dive roll. And a lot of them are really hard and really quite impressive, but I didn't want a dive holes video just to be like, just like one after the other of just like the same repetitive experience. So hopefully I did a better job than what I'm explaining, like putting together more interesting lines that involve them.
All right, I gotta ask you some hot take questions around it.
All right, hit me up.
So Store put out a parkour holes video. So I know there's got to be part of you that wasn't like super pleased because it's along the same sort of like name, so it's not quite as like kind of. Do you feel like it took away from because you had already? I know you were already working on it.
Well, I've been working on it for 2 years now. I started in 2020 actually. I think the first clip I got was from 2020. First couple clips. What was I upset about it? Like I don't know. There's like a part of me that was just like, you guys like beat me to like the thing. But at the same time, it's like there's room for both. So, and like a lot of theirs aren't even dive holes. Like a lot of them are just kind of like jumping and threading through.
Like, or underbars.
Or underbars or other things like that. And I think more than anything, like upon reflection, it's like, it's better that they put out a video around holes because that potentially amplifies the interest in it. And I don't know, like, this video might not do very well at all. Like I'm doing it for like my own like personal legacy of this, of like, this is one of the skills that I've for whatever reason gotten like delved way too deeply into, and I want to document it in a way that I'm happy with the final product. And I am. So like, having spent 2 years on it. I'm like super excited about releasing it and getting it out there for people to watch and kind of point to as part of my legacy. Just like Ascension 2, like Ascension 1 was awesome, and that was like a kind of a dipping my toes into it. But Ascension 2 in my world is like one of the things in parkour I'd probably be most proud of. So if I never do another parkour video again, I will be happy that I at least did these videos. So.
Second question about Store was like, how would you rate their collective? Well, okay. First of all, who do you think is the best? Who do you think is the best on the team at Holes?
Actually, like Drew, like was like, and I think even Toby said like that. Like he was surprised by how like willing.
Yeah,
Drew was.
It's a different. Like I don't like whenever I've approached like one that's difficult for me. It's not like the same kind of mental. It's more of like an annoyance, where like it's like asking, because I'm talking about like dinging sides, like hitting your shins, hitting your hands, scraping yourself, whatever. It's not the same mental as like I'm up high and I need to do a jump. Yeah. Right. Or like
it's totally different,
precision. It's like it's more like.
There's some of that there, but it's not the same.
It's not the same for me. It's not like a fear, like consciously, or like you don't feel like my palms don't sweat. You know, it's more like oh, I just want to commit, but like your body like stops. It's like trying to I don't know, like trying to like intentionally cut yourself. You know, like I don't like it's almost like you know what I mean, like there's something where it's like if this all goes according to plan, I should just be able to slide right through there, whether it's an underbar or a dive roll or like a dive Kong through something. But there's like a thing where like you don't put enough speed into, and like, you know, I've seen you go through the process where it's like you're not putting enough speed into, you're like doing all the progressions, stopping yourself halfway or whatever, because like ultimately there's like a sensation of like I might like scrape something, and that's not pleasant. I don't want to scrape myself, so like you stop yourself from doing it.
You know, I think about this often, and not often, but I think about this because I've taught workshops around diving through spaces, and I'm very confident that I can teach most people to like the progressions towards doing it. But sometimes the progressions are uncomfortable. Like not like pain, not necessarily like super painful, but uncomfortable. And then sometimes you mess up and they are painful. They are very
like
painful.
I have a oh yeah, I got a little boo-boo on my calf, and that's from an underbar. Yeah. That's from an underbar that I did a bunch of times, and then it just like one of them like scraped the concrete, and what usually like after you scrape too, like it's usually like not that bad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it'll be like a nice thing for Instagram. You can be like, look, blood.
But you know, this is part of parkour in that like there's almost a there's a slightly masochistic element to parkour.
Yeah, for sure.
I was training one day and somebody was like, they got cuts on their hands. They're like, this is how you know it was a good day. It's like, God, I got cuts on my hands. And it's like, I think the exact same way. And because like, there's something, it's like rewarding. It's like you did something, but it's painful, but it's like painful in a good way. It's like, makes you feel alive.
It's also surface level. Like, it's not, those aren't, someone actually, I can't remember who I saw on Instagram the other day, they posted something like that, and they were like, oh, like, this is an injury, or like, I love injuries, or whatever, and I was like, it's not an injury, dude, that's just like a script, like, it's still cool, like, cool, like, you can post it, you know, stuff, but that's not, I wouldn't call it an injury, it's like, it's just like surface level damage.
I mean, and that's like the type of thing that happens often with dive holes, is like, you're going to maybe bruise your quads or like scrape, I don't know, you're going to scrape something or bruise something or like potentially take the hit. And so answer your question, apparently Drew was really good at that. Yeah. And I don't know, I'd actually have to go back and watch the video to like actually tell you who I thought, but I'm pretty sure pretty sure Drew did like the harder like actual dive holes, but like they had other things in there, right? They had like jumps through trees and stuff like that, which I think are like, that's also really cool to me. And I love when I see people do dive fronts and things like that. And like my video is actually going to be mostly around dive rolls and a couple like dive kongs as well, right? So like that's going to be part of it as well. But like there's so much more that I could have done. You know, I could have tried to find like the perfect dive fronts and like worked up to doing those, which I've not
you've done some cool ones.
Yeah, but I'm not. It's not one of the skills I'm like great at. But it's I've done them before.
Okay, so out of 10, what is a 10 being the best in the world? Where does Drew rank?
I mean, there's so few people doing it to begin with, so like he's probably up there. You know, like I'll give him a 7. I don't know.
Okay, and then the follow up for 7. All right, it's admirable. It's like a
a good tour for me.
That's like a C+.
Yeah, sure. We'll say C+. All
right,
or C or whatever.
Okay, so who are the on your radar other than yourself? Who are the like A rankers for dive holes?
This is a really difficult question because I'm struggling to.
I have 2 people that come to mind that I know like can perform well, but doesn't like maybe you don't see it from them that often.
Okay, so the first person that comes to mind is actually Tyson.
He came to mind, but he's not the 2 I'm thinking of because he doesn't practice as much anymore. He's not current.
Yeah. So you know the one. So you know the shirt that Jane made for us. That one. So Tyson sent me. He did that one, but he konged it instead of dive roll.
Oh, weird.
Like the bench part, and I was like, he was like, yeah, that's just what naturally like.
What happened?
Came to mind. He did it. It was fine. But
this is how to describe this to people. It's like this
it's a bench
wall structure. By the way, Jane might be watching this, and Jane Henry, she is our longest standing gym member, and she just presented us with T-shirts yesterday to commemorate like 10 years of origin. So and Catherine. So thank you, Jane and Catherine, for the lovely shirts. It was a nice surprise. But on these shirts is like this structure that you can find somewhere on your Instagram, and in like the upper third of the structure is a hole, and we used to drive by or bike by this thing all the time, and then finally one day you sent the dive roll through, but I'm struggling to figure out how you would. Did you like ground kong through?
No,
because it's kind of low to the ground.
So it's hard to explain, but you know how the way I worked up to it was I didn't just dive straight into it. I like dove, and then there's like a bench part where I put my hand and then I reached through to the roll. Okay. He just konged to the bench. Which is actually insane because he's a larger human than I am, and that's a very small hole.
Yeah, I feel like he's like more my size. I feel like I wouldn't, because when I was talking about like special, like being built for, like I'm not built for like thread kongs. So like I have to do like, usually if I'm thread ground konging through something, I have to like turn my legs or whatever. Like I can't do like a straight tuck. I usually have to do something weird, and I've actually like strained my back at times like doing that type of movement, which is not fun. But yeah, that's wild.
So and you never see stuff from Tyson, but like he was also like the type of person willing to take the hit to get it done.
Yes, yeah. Because you guys have like pretty much, I know several jams where the 2 of you have been together and just spent the majority of time at a jam like doing like one dive hole.
Yeah, exactly.
There's like that really gross one at what's it called? Gasworks Park.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a scraper.
I almost didn't do it.
Yeah.
Tyson like tried it and like scraped the shit out of his legs, I think, and he was like, he turned. I like saw him do it, and I was like, ooh, I don't know. And then he's like, "Well, you're not gonna shed some blood with me on this one?" And I was like, oh, "Okay, now I feel obligated. I have to do it."
So there's 2 other Americans that come to mind. And one of them I actually don't remember his name. He's in California. He's like either head coach or gym owner.
Christian?
Yeah, Christian Fairfax. Yeah.
Christian's good at it, yeah.
Yeah, because I think he had one in a video that like impressed you.
Yeah, well, he's just super impressive in general. Like, he's so good at parkour, and like super under known. And he's always got like such cool, unique style. I don't know though. Like, sure, like, you know, he's a.
Well, I just remember there was like one or two that like impressed you, and so. But the other guy that actually comes to mind is Seth Rugy.
I knew you were gonna say Seth. Yeah, Seth has done some very impressive, just dive rolls in general.
Yeah, or like double Kong through.
Double Kong, yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah. Like there's one in his gym that he did that was like really impressive.
And horribly filmed, but there's probably no other way you could do it. It's like, yeah, and it is one of those skills, and this is kind of the hard thing, like trying to film a couple of them for you was like, how do we make this look like it's, you know, as difficult as it is?
Yeah.
Because like I think the easiest way to film is like, you know, you get a wide angle and you just kind of like pull through as it's happening. But it's almost like, I think people are used to seeing, I think some of the most successful parkour clips are sometimes just like the kind of far away, like someone was just holding a phone or whatever. Because it's just like, and like maybe not like a quick edit, you know, like it just holds on a person. It's like, okay, something's about to happen. All right, I can see, oh, are they looking at that? Oh, and then they do the thing. I think sometimes that's like those are the most viral clips.
Yeah.
It's just like very simple shots instead of trying to do like something really nicely shot or edited. Yeah.
Yeah, Seth is very good, but he's also very good at a lot of things too.
Yeah.
So like, but yeah, I don't know, but it also like feels like, It's funny that you say that you asked me this question because there's so few people in the world that really push. Actually, there are more that now I'm thinking about. Oliver Norden actually is pretty good at this.
I have not seen nor heard that name in some time.
Yeah. You know who else is good at it? Dom.
Yeah, he's
not like,
I mean, he's willing to take.
He's willing to take the hit.
He's not like and that's the thing about like the skill set too, is like so much of it is that specific type of mental, and because of, like you said, not a lot of people are practicing it. We don't get to find out who would be good. We just have like these glimpses, because you could also say Joe Scandrett on that list too. He's always scraping through stuff all the time.
That's true. I actually don't think I've ever seen him do a dive hole though.
Yeah, he's usually like more of a feet first, but he would potentially be good.
Yeah.
The other person I want to mention though, and this is like more of an unknown, is because he's kind of went into like the how do I say, like Instagram gimmicks type post, but he used to be more of a parkour guy until like he had an injury. But Elias Simakov.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
he does.
He is really good at those, actually.
He has like,
now that you mention it.
Yeah, he's also like niche parkour skills. You know, like
he's got and he does some really gross stuff. I feel like I haven't seen him do like the kind of stuff he was doing before.
Yeah.
That was really, really crazy. But yeah, in general, rolling was like a skill set that he developed quite deeply, and one of those actually is dive holes. So. Yeah. If I can go back on that list, he would probably be like probably top of the list.
Top.
Yeah, somewhere around the top. Like him or
sense,
Tyson.
Yeah.
Like Tyson is also very good, but yeah.
It's okay. We're gonna like end this recording, and you're gonna be like,
yeah. I'm sure I'll remember somebody.
This person.
Yeah. So in this video, I actually did 2 of my hardest dive holes I've ever done, and they're at the end of the video, so you gotta watch the whole thing to get to it.
Which is, I remember you had this as a thing before, where we were like editing some of the early like Origins edits, and you'd be like, people should put the hardest thing at the end. It was like your thing, and I still don't know like if
not the hardest, but like the best, the best clip.
Like the hardest thing probably shouldn't be at the very end, but like, or like maybe even the best clip, but like it does make sense to end with a banger, because it's gonna like
recency bias. Like when you see the thing like at the end, that's going to be the thing that sticks with you. And so if the video ends with like something that's just kind of a line that fizzles out, you're just going to be like, yeah, the video wasn't that good. Even if the rest of the video is so good, right?
Yeah.
Like the thing that sticks with you is going to be the thing that like you finish with.
It's like most of the videos.
Or start with, right?
Yeah. Most of the videos that like people probably remember, and I'm talking about like short edits, like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, are probably the ones that end with a banger.
Yeah.
Like if the video fizzles, it's like,
Yeah. Do you remember what I said to you when I did that one dive hole that was the red's tiny square?
The brick, yeah.
And I smashed my quad. Not the brick, sorry, not that one. The other one.
Oh, yeah.
I smashed my quad.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, should I do this again? Okay, I didn't quite get it the way I wanted it. All right.
You said like, what am I doing with my life or something?
I think I said, I'm 33 years old. I don't need to be doing this to myself. 34 now, but yeah. Talking about taking hits, it was just that was one of the worst ones, and that it wasn't actually. So it was painful, but it was actually because I think the surface I hit my leg on was so thin that it burst something in my leg.
I think what we were relating it to was like, and I think it makes sense, is like guasa. Like if anyone watching or listening is familiar with guasa, it's like an old Chinese treatment where like you scrape the skin with like the edge of something, and it can't be like too sharp, otherwise you're not cutting. But what happens when you scrape is it's supposed to like lift the blood, and so some people, if they get like a guasa treatment like on their neck or something, their whole neck turns like purple. And that's what
bruising.
That's what your quad looked like.
My leg was bruised. Actually, if you go to my Instagram, I have it as like a story highlight of the progress from day 1 till day, I don't know, 9 or something like that. And it's this bruise that just develops like crazy and then eventually goes away. And that was from a clip in Dive Holes. And I mean, I put the bail clip in. It's really hard to tell that is actually what happens. And that's actually one of the things is most of the bail clips that happen with dive holes, it doesn't look that bad, but it hurts like hell. There's another one in there, I smashed my hip, and that clip is in there, but you could barely tell. You could just see that I'm like writhing in pain. So I beat myself up in this video, and I'm glad that it's over because it's not to say that I'm not going to do any more dive holes after this, but I'm not going to be as single-minded about the challenges that I'm trying to find in the world. And I don't know, maybe I'll kind of start looking at other parts of parkour.
I wanted to ask you about like one more thing about just. Which might be our last part of this because we've been recording for a while, but because you said 2 years, and so I kind of had this so this is my hot take, and tell me if you agree. If someone makes a video and it takes them less than a year, is it going to be a great video?
It definitely could be.
Because I don't think it can be.
I think it could be, but like you think about like what Dom was achieving in 2021, was it? Was his 20? What was the year that he?
What edit are you talking about though?
No, okay. Like, I'm not saying the edit. What I'm saying is like his achievements. All happened, like those were incredible achievements that happened within the scope of a year.
Yeah. So I mean, like, it should take. I think if someone does a video and it takes them like a couple months, it's probably not going to be a great video. I think of like particularly if it's like a style, because I think even like Project Dive Rolls, I think took over a year. Capstone, first one, I think took over a year. Because sometimes even like the editing and stuff too. I think the amount of time that goes in usually is going to dictate how good for an edit. If it's like a jam video, like again, sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes people just will show up and throw a bunch of bangers or like never been done before things. But
so what's the opposite of in my defense?
What?
You know, like
you lost me.
I'm not trying to defend. I want the opposite of defend myself.
Yeah.
Like the reason it took 2 years was partly because like it took me 2 years to like send something that I like.
Well, I think a lot of the challenges, because it's not like you. I don't mean this as an insult, but it's not like you like came up with like a training plan. You know, or like a progression. It was basically like it took time to the other side of it, which is something that Tim Champion wrote in a caption once, was like letting something stew.
Yes.
And so like you let things stew for a certain amount of time, and then sometimes it's just like, oh, I'm kind of feeling it today.
I'm ready
like,
today.
let's
go. Well, yeah, and partly so the part of the reason why it's done is actually I gave myself a deadline, and there was one that I was leaving. Because I knew I was really scared of it, and I had tried it multiple times before, and I had like hurt myself on it multiple times before. Not like bad, but just like unknowingly like scraped up and bruised up. So I was just putting it off, and I also never made progress on it every time I did try it. So that I just needed to just like set like, and the day I did it, it wasn't, I'm going to do this today. It was like, hey, let's go over there real quick and look at it. And then I just started processing it. Yeah. Started working through it. And I didn't think I would get anywhere with it, but I ended up getting
that was the first session that we like, I noticed, I was thinking about it too, and that was the first session that we like analyzed it. Yeah. Because I think, I don't know when you went with Corey what happened, but Corey Methven, another potential great at dive holes at some point back then. Yeah. We had the ability to send, right, for the most part. But so I don't. Send. He's what?
He has the other.
He does have the other send. But like the other times you tried, because I remember being there with Mateo and we were filming, but it was like we were trying to move on to somewhere else, and you just kept trying it. But like in this session, we were like looking at the clips, and it was like what do you got to do, to make it happen? Because I think you were also thinking of like. We were still debating of like what. It's so weird talking about this without understanding people are conveying what the challenge is, but because there's another obstruction after the hole, and it's like, okay, after you dive through, what happens with the wall? Yeah, your hands are going to touch it. Are you Konging it? Are you doing that? And we had all these different interpretations, and I'm really happy that you ended up doing it the way that you did, because I thought that was the coolest.
I did too, and that's what I always wanted in my head, but there was a point where it was like, I don't know if I'll be able to get to that point, and so if it doesn't happen, I have to live with whatever I can get through this area. But yeah, so yeah.
When does it come out? We gotta wrap this. I got people messaging me about work, I think, right now.
Okay. Oh yeah, we gotta wrap up. Dive Holes will be dropping October 22nd. So this month, in a couple weeks, I guess. October 22nd, 10/22, and 10/22/22.
Yeah. Good number.
So stay tuned, Origins Parkour YouTube. You'll be able to see it there. I'm very proud of what I was able to put together, and I hope you enjoy it. And I don't know. We can stop talking about this now.
We're back on STS, so we're gonna try to make this more of a regular thing. Also back on the YouTube, as a regular thing. Now that we're done with summer events and things, and we're not traveling around trying to put other things together, so we freed up some time, we got some direction, and we're gonna get back on the YouTube train. So thanks for joining us today. Links for everything that you need to see to support us or be a part of what we're doing should be in the description, and we'll catch you next time.
2.